Good afternoon, everyone. The lecture that I'm going to deliver today is on intonation. Intonation is usually a term that is used in the field of suprasegmental phonology or phonetics, where we have the study of different parts of the language, usually the distinctive use of the patterns of pitch, melody. In suprasegmental phonology, one important aspect is intonation. This intonation refers to the distinctive use of patterns of pitch or melody. This study of intonation is called intonology. So we have a special branch of study that analyzes the intonation pattern in English language and other languages called intonology. And this is applied to the study of sentence stress. As we have learned in our last class that stress in English is different from the syllabic timed rhythm that we find in other languages. In English language, the pattern is that of isochronous, that means equal time gap between two stress syllables. So this intonology is applied to the study of sentence stress. There are, of course, several ways of analyzing intonation. The basic components of intonology are the following. Number one, the stress and unstressed syllables. Number two, the primary and secondary accent. Number three, pitch pattern of phonemes and morphemes. Number four, tone units or tone groups and tonicity. And finally, we have the variables of pitch, range, the height, and direction. So I repeat the basic components of intonology for your clarity. First, we have to identify stressed and unstressed syllables. Second, we have to identify the system of primary and secondary stress. Third, pitch pattern of phonemes and morphemes. Fourth, the tone units or tone groups and tonicity. And finally, we have to search for three variables. Number A, pitch range. Number B, height. And finally, direction. In usual day-to-day conversation, intonational phrasing is structured hierarchy of the intonation constituents. In connected speech, whenever we make an utterance span is marked by tone group. The speakers of English inflect their speech, create intonational contours, and therefore intonation refers to the use of pitch variation in discourse. Intonation and stress are therefore interrelated. Tonic syllables denotes the stress syllable which or where the tone falls. There is always an extra pitch movement placed on the tonic syllable. Intonation places or phase may be defined as a stretch of discourse which contains a tonic syllable. This is also called the intonation group. These are also called breath group, as the utterance that we use require single stream of breath, or the extra thrust is required of the air in each tone group. So utterance requires a single unit of pulmonic egressive air stream. Say when we give a pause separating the tone group, we usually draw breath, means we inspire air. And when we deliver a speech or with tonic emphasis, we usually use the pulmonic egressive air stream or expiration of the air is used. Further, it is very common for all the English speakers to pause at the end of every unit. In our grammar, we also have learned some punctuation marks. And most of these punctuation marks are related to the way the spoken language is delivered. So intonation groups can be also marked with the help of the punctuation mark that we have. In a sentence or in any kind of utterance, we always have in connected speech, we always have a sequence of words, and these words are uttered with a kind of tempo. a kind of rhythm, and we separate the sentence into small parts. These small parts are called tone groups, and while delivering these tone groups, we also have emphasis on some stress syllable. That means usually the final stress syllable receives a higher emphasis, and special pitch is required. Intonational modulation is required for the utterance of that part. So with these 5 areas, we must locate in a language, in a spoken language or a speech, the suprasegmental features. Pitch refers to the auditory impression created by variation in the rate of vibration of the vocal cords. So vocal folds are there. We know the vibration of the vocal cords determine the pitch of the sound of the voice. So in Balasubramanian's book, you will find that he has stated that during our normal speech, usually in case of an adult male, the vocal cords vibrate between 80 and 120 times a second, and between 150 and 200 times a second in case of adult females. The rate at which the vocal cords vibrate is called the frequency of vibration, and this determines the pitch of the voice. The more rapidly the vocal cords vibrate, the higher will be the pitch. Intonation refers to the use of pitch contours of the voice in connected speech, which usually consists of more than one word. For example, in a sentence, Geeta went to the doctor. So we find that there are words, Geeta went to the doctor. And here we have 3 syllables with primary word stress. Okay, Geeta went doctor. So 3 words are there which receive primary word stress. But in the last word, additional pitch movement is placed on the primary stressed syllable, especially on the syllable called doc. So when we read the line, we say, Geeta went to the doctor. So special emphasis is given on doc. That means a higher pitch, higher sound movement is there when we articulate the syllable, first syllable of the word doctor. We can notice that this stress syllable is more prominent than other stress syllables in the line. This syllable is also longer in duration and louder than the other stress syllables in the sentence. That syllable is said to be the tonic syllable. So in a tone group, if I regard the entire sentence as a tone group, then this particular doctor, in the first syllable of the word doctor, we have pitch change, and this syllable is said to be the tonic syllable. So we can easily identify the tonic syllable. The tonic syllable is usually the syllable that is stressed with a higher pitch at the end of any tone group. By tone group, I mean a sentence or a part of sentence where we have additional pause. If it is a longer sentence with clauses, so we give pause in between 2 parts of the sentence, and therefore every part will constitute a tone group. So a syllable on which a pitch change takes place is marked with a sign. Okay, a vertical sign is placed on the stress, you have remembered, and the same tone group is used. Thus, the sign is used in order to show by slanting the sign from left to right. If the mark is slanting down on the top of the syllable, it is called high fall. That means the pitch falls from very high to very low. Similarly, when we have a mark where this intonation mark is, tonic mark is placed at the bottom of a syllable, from left to right, it is falling. It is called low fall. The pitch falls from mid to very low. In case of high rise, the intonational mark that we have to use is that vertical bar slanting rightwards. Means it is moving from left to right in a slanting manner. This is called high rise. The pitch rises from very low to very high. Then we have low rise, where we have a pitch movement from that again low side of that syllable, the pitch rises from low to mid. We also have rise and fall. The intonational mark used is a diacritical mark that is showing the rise as well as fall. Then we have fall rise. Again, an intonational mark is used on the top of the syllable that denotes the fall and rise. The pitch falls from mid to low and then rises to mid. It takes a considerable length of time, usually to gain mastery over such suprasegmental features. But as students of linguistics, phonetics, phonology, we need to know a bit about this. So another suprasegmental feature of connected speech is that of assimilation. We often have seen assimilation. A speech is a connected utterance and not just a stringing together of discrete units or phonemes. A sound may be affected by the preceding and succeeding phonemes. Usually a sound is affected by the preceding and succeeding phonemes. Okay. In a connected utterance, of course. The way by which such sounds in connected speech influence each other is called assimilation. Such assimilatory changes may be called allophonic or phonemic. It is defined as a process of replacing sound A by sound B under the influence of sound C. As for example, in a phrase, say, horse shoe. How is it pronounced? It is pronounced as horse shoe. So sa is replaced by sh sound. So this is a morphophonemic change that is occurring in connected speech. So we find this type of changes. Say in connected speech, you are asking, who's there? Interrogative sentence, who's there? And you are pronouncing it as hooch there, who's there. So who is there has been shortened, assimilated as hooch there. In order to maintain the characteristic rhythm of English, an accented or unaccented syllable is pronounced fast. Okay, sometimes. Usually the unaccented syllables are pronounced very fast. We also have omission of sounds in connected speech. And this omission of sound in connected speech is called elision. Okay, in phonetics and phonology. Though elision, both consonant and vowels may be affected. Sometimes whole syllables are elided. Unstressed grammatical words used in weak forms are particularly prone to be elided, such as and, of, etc. Even in connected speech, elision is marked with the dropping of sounds like in cup of tea. How do we pronounce this in a connected speech? Cup of tea, cup of tea. So first sound is totally missing. Ver sound is totally missing. Similarly, complex consonant clusters are also often reduced through this process of elision. A consonant cluster like 12th, how do you pronounce it? So when you are pronouncing this 12th, you are using either 12 or 12s, further. Instead of further, you are just pronouncing the sound fur. In rhetorical terminology also, elision is used when we have the deletion of initial position of the word. So anaphrasis, this is used. So in the middle position, if that vowel sound is missing, we call it syncope. And the shortening of the word's final position is called apocope. So we have in rhetorical language also the use of this type of elision or deletion of the vowel sound or consonant sounds in connected speech. The second part of my discussion will be rhythm. The intonation is also related to rhythm. The phonological system, as we know, is comprising of the segmental and suprasegmental features in the spoken form of language. Speech sounds or phonemes, speech sounds that we call phonemes are individual. Okay, in the spoken form, we do not usually articulate phonemes independently. In speech, these individual segments are not pronounced as individual units. These phonemes are segments that are studied under segmental phonology, now becomes a part of larger construction. So suprasegmental features are the new distinctive elements that are added to the basic segmental structure of phoneme. There are 44 phonemes in English RP, but when we use these phonemes in connected speech, some suprasegmental features are added. These suprasegmental features of English language include, as I have stated earlier, stress, pitch, tone group, intonation, and rhythm. In phonology, rhythm, the word rhythm refers to the perceived regularity of prominent units in speech. So there is some pattern, there is some regular pattern. So rhythm refers to the perceived regularity of prominent units in speech. According to Geoffrey Leach, versification is a question of the interplay between two planes of structure. The ideally regular quasi-mathematical pattern called meter and the actual rhythm the language insists on, sometimes called the prose rhythm. So prominent stressed syllables occur in a regular pattern, and rhythm depends on the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllable. So long and short syllables, high pitch, low pitch, all these variables are also combined in a rhythmic pattern for greater rhythmicality. In case of lyrical poems, we have a greater rhythmicality. These suprasegmental features like stress, syllable length, pitch, tone, intonation are all arranged in a schematized pattern in spoken language, and they all contribute to the rhythmic effect. English language is, of course, a rhythmic language because, number one, of the stress pattern, number two, because of the isochronous nature of the stress pattern, that means equal time gap between two stress syllable, number three, because of the intonation variation, the connected speech divided into tonic groups have a tonic syllable, and finally because of the rhythmic pattern. Rhythm is produced by the regularity of time lapse between two stress syllables. Isochronic English language has a regularity of time lapse between two stress syllables. Therefore, rhythm is produced by the regularity of time lapse between two stress syllables and the emphatic sound of the stressed syllable. Emphatic sound of the stressed syllable helps to produce this type of rhythm. Okay, if you compare poetic composition to a musical composition, we can say that the utterances are divided into bars or measures. So according to Geoffrey Leach, stripped of all subtleties, conventional English meter is nothing more than rhythmic parallelism, a patterning of the succession of stressed and unstressed syllables with greater regularity than is necessary for spoken English in general. So in case of poetry, we have seen that how poem or poetic compositions are metrically organized in order to give more rhythmic power. Metrical pattern shows the division of the line into feet, the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. But the length and the proper patterning of or the repetition of the rhythm of the same sound, the length of the sound, this patterns of rhythm can mainly be achieved through rhythmic parallelism. And through rhythmic parallelism, the language organizes itself into speech utterances. Especially this rhythm is more marked in verse lines. While in case of independent long polysyllabic words, there is an internal patterning of primary and secondary stress. In case of connected speech, the patterning of stress syllable is more perceptible. As Daniel Jones has rightly pointed out, that there is a strong tendency in the connected speech to make stress syllables follow each other as far as possible at equal distances. So in English language, we find that there is a strong tendency in connected speech to make stress syllables follow each other as far as possible at equal length or equal distances. Rhythm is created when the syllable containing long vowel or diphthong is followed by unstressed syllables. As I said, unstressed syllables do not require special emphasis. They are weak syllables, while stressed syllables are strong syllables, they require more emphasis. And there is an equal time gap between two stressed syllables in English language, as the language is isochronous. The length of the vowel also depends on the rhythm of the sentence in connected speech. Most of the stressed syllables of a sentence follow each other as far as possible at equal distance. As English is an isochronous language, we find that this is almost equal. So rhythmic pattern is also regulated by this equal time gap between two stressed syllables. Daniel Jones has given an excellent example of the series number. So when you are saying 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, so when you are saying this, you have a rhythm that is in the series of numbers. So when you pronounce this 18, 19, 20, like this you are pronouncing it. So similarly, when you say 8, 9, 10, so you find a rhythm. So this is because of the equal time gap between the stressed and unstressed syllables in the first line, and in the second line all the syllables are monosyllabic. 8, so we have to give a pause. 9, 10. The musical note of these two lines usually can be shown through graphical images. In music also, the symbols are used. Breve, minim, crochet, or quaver. That symbols are used to show whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note. Even semi-quaver are used. The length of the syllable and the length of time between the stressed syllables are determined by rhythm. I repeat, the length of the syllable and the length of time between the stressed syllable are determined by rhythm. If I say, I could not start immediately as I was not ready, I could not start immediately as I was not ready. I can go slow, no problem. But even if I speak this line slowly, there will be proper rhythm. Rhythm is always there in the articulation. I could not start immediately as I was not ready. I could not start immediately as I was not ready. I could not start immediately as I was not ready. So, in various ways, I can read the line, but there will always be a rhythm. So, long vowel start takes more time than the long vowel e. Okay, immediately. So, this elongation or shortening of the long vowel or diphthong is due to the rhythm of the connected speech. The stresses independent word is modified by rhythm in connected speech. Even in words with single stress, rhythm may modify the stress in connected speech. In English poetry, we have an excellent use of rhythm. Usually in any verse composition, rhythm is an essential component. In poems, the words are articulated as connected speech, articulated lines of poetry. Poetry is also meant for performance, can be heard as a sequence of syllables. In words of two or more syllables, one syllable is almost always given more emphasis than the other. Metrical pattern in poetry works on the schematized patterning or alternation between accentuated syllables and weak syllables. Rhythm refers to that repetition into the regular phrasing across a line of verse. Rhythm in poetry is pattern movement. It is a pattern movement of pulses in time, which is defined both by periodicity, as it occurs at regular time intervals, and repetition, as the same pulses occur again and again. I must refer to Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, who talks about this in his Letters on Poetry, Literature and Art. He says that poetic effect usually depends on the magic of rhythm. Phonological foregrounding becomes more effective and can draw the attention of the audience to the meaning with the help of the rhythmical pattern. Accent pattern can be effectively used to produce the desired rhythm. Through rhythmic parallelism, patterning of successive stressed and unstressed syllables, the poets can produce the desired rhythm. English is a stressed time language, and I said that there is always an equal time gap between two accented syllables in English language. So Geoffrey Leach has rightly pointed out that a line in poetic language can be split into segments, which are in some sense of equal duration. Although the rhythm of language is not isochronic in terms of crude physical measurement. So we cannot go for a crude physical measurement. But when we articulate the lines, so we find this type of rhythm there. Oh, what can ill the night turns alone and palely loitering? The such as waited from the lake and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail the night turns so haggard and so woebegone? The squirrel's granary is full and harvest is done. I see a lily on thy brow with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose fast with her it too. So we find that these are metrically composed, and when I am reading these lines, we also find that there is a rhythm, and this rhythm is also foregrounding the meaning. So the rhythm of the language is isochronic. Okay, even if it is not isochronic, there is an equal time gap between two stressed syllables. Accent and rhythm both are interrelated. Rhythm refers to the perceived regularity of accented units in speech. This rhythmic regularity is seen in the patterns of stressed and unstressed syllables, long and short syllables, high or low pitch. In poetry, such regular rhythmic pattern is found, especially in metrical compositions. So, in context of rhythm studies, okay, another specialized branch, rhythm studies, the notion of stressed rhyme language is another important suprasegmental component. In case of English, what we find in English is that there is the pattern of stress. Okay, the stresses fall at regular intervals with an utterance, within an utterance. So this isochronism or the stress time rhythm is there in English language. This isochronism is used to characterize the pronunciation in which the stress syllables recur at regular intervals of time. Irrespective of the number of intervening unstressed syllables, there is always an equal time gap between two stressed syllables in connected speech. This characteristic is referred to as isochronism or isochrony. In connected speech, some words receive more force and loudness and stand out from the rest. For example, in the following sentences, the words that stand out from the rest are marked with a vertical bar. Okay, I'm reading the sentences. You have to identify where do you have the stress pattern. Ronnie and Johnny are friends. So we have a rhythm. Ronnie and Johnny are friends. So I got a pair of trousers. I got, you are giving emphasis on got, a pair, emphasis on pair of trousers. So first syllable of the word trousers. So I want to go to the market. I want to go to the market. So all these sentences are simple sentences with a full stop at the end and falling tone is used. I want to go to the market. I want, go, mar. These are emphasized. And you will find that there is equal time gap between the stress syllables. I want to go to the market. So if you want to read this line in a rhythmic way, you have to give the time gap almost equal. I want to go to the market. Want to go to the market. So in case of polysyllabic words used in connected speech, only that syllable of a polysyllabic word is made prominent, which is prominent when the word is spoken in isolation. So Mary and Rosie have decided to visit London. The stress system is almost the same. Stress time rhythm is maintained in connected speech, irrespective of the number of intervening unstressed syllables. In some cases, the choice of the syllable receiving the primary accent depends on the meaning the speaker wants to convey. In such cases, the stress time rhythm is carefully calibrated with intonation, a feature of connected speech and sentence stresses. In English rhythm, we also have another suprasegmental feature. I said that is of the use of weak form and the strong form. So according to the rhythm, the stress or emphasis on the words, making the words weak or strong, can be seen. So these changes both in quantitative and qualitative pattern depend upon whether the words are accented or not. Whenever these words are pronounced in isolation and accented, the strong forms of the words are used. So in the list of the words that I would be saying now, whenever the words occur in isolation, you have to use the words in the strong form. But in case of connected speech, the words require accent according to the meaning, according to the emphasis, and according to the rhythm. So in the connected speech, they remain unaccented. The weak forms of the words are used. Say the vowels, sorry, the articles a and the. So we have the strong form a and the or the. So these are the possible strong forms. So weak forms are a and the. So the is placed before a vowel. Okay, the is placed before a word beginning with a vowel. And the is used beginning a word beginning with a consonant, just before the word beginning with a consonant. So this is a morphophonemic change. So these are weak forms, the and the. Next we have am, strong form am, weak form is are. The weak form is can, could, does, does, do. So these are the strong forms. And the weak form of do is had, has. So Balabhasubramaniam has given a list of words having weak form and strong form. So in order to do phonetic transcription, you need to know the weak and the strong forms of the words. So rhythm is also supported with meter. In prosody, you have done the analysis of meter. In phonology, the main function of stress is to provide a means of distinguishing degrees of emphasis or contrast in sentences, also referred to as sentence stress. As all the syllables in a sentence do not receive equal amount of stress, we use the term contrastive stress in suprasegmental phonology to describe the process of identification of stress syllables. So in prosodic scansion, what we do? We place an accent above the prominent syllable or the core phoneme. The nucleus of a syllable is usually a vowel that is identified, and a stress mark is placed, an accent mark is placed on the top of that syllable. Sentence stress is clearly audible. For example, if I say a slumber did my spirit seal, so you know where the accent is falling. Slumber did my spirit seal. Similarly, in Pope's famous poem, puffs, powder, patches, Bible, bile, do. So in prosodic morphology, the word is broken into syllables. The stress rules are applied for pronunciation. In metrical composition, there is a conscious patterning of stresses and unstressed syllables. Stress is not solely a matter of loudness, it is also related to pitch and duration. Strength of the syllable also depends on the weak and the strong form of the syllable or word. Stress pattern also changes according to the grammatical use of the word. In a word like water, two syllables are there, disyllabic word. This can be used as noun and verb. I talked about the shift of the stress. In case of the word water used as a noun, the stress is placed on the first syllable. But when the same word is used as a verb, water, the stress falls on the second syllable. Various degrees of stress are assigned to the syllables of words by means of repeated application of rules. These stress rules may be categorized as lexical rules, lexical stress, stress based on compounding words, stress based on nuclear stress rules. In poetry or lyrical composition, the stress pattern may be governed by metrical rules. So stress pattern is governed by some stress rules. What are these? Number one, lexical stress rule based on the meaning of the item or the grammatical function. Number B, compound stress rule based on the process of compounding. When the word is compounded, how the stress falls. Number three, nuclear stress rule based on the nuclear word. When the word is monosyllabic, there is a pattern of stress. So, and finally, we have metrical stress rule based on meter and rhythm or lyric. So words are also classified into two broad groupings, lexical categories: noun, verbs, adverbs, adjectives. And there are also words or parts of speech of a functional or grammatical category. So referring to interjection, conjunction, preposition, and pronoun. And there are, of course, words called articles. So these words are usually not stressed. Independent meaning words receive stress, while the functional or grammatically obligatory words like pronouns, conjunction, preposition, and interjection used in sentence receive no stress, usually in connected speech. The placement of primary stress in English word is calculated by counting from the end of the word. Primary stress in a word falls on either the final syllable of a word, the penultimate syllable, or the anti-penultimate syllable. So we have learned that in the last class when we were trying to learn affixation and the rules of stress applied. Rhythm in poetry is based on metrical stress. In metrical composition, stress timed rhythm is based on fixed stress rules as well as free stress shift based on the metrical requirements. Usually in lyrical composition, the stresses fall at roughly regular intervals in any line. Any line of a sonnet has 10 syllables, usually composed in a proper metrical pattern of 5 pairs of unstressed and stressed syllables. This pattern of prosody is called iambic pentameter. You know this pattern. Similarly, we have trochaic pattern in poetry, referring to the pairing of stressed and unstressed syllables in a sequence. In metrical phonology, a stress foot refers to a string containing a stressed syllable as its first element, followed by unstressed syllable. And the most prominent element in the stressed foot is called the head. So we also have foot division. In metrical scansion, we have the foot division. So we have rhythm, rhyme, and length in case of poetry. So if I read some lines from major poems, you will find how this is maintained. In English verse or poems, we often see an extensive sequence of unstressed syllables. Optimal rhythmic structure has one strong syllable alternating with one weak syllables. But we also have one stressed syllable followed by a series of weak syllables, 2 or 3 weak syllables possible. Such optimal rhythmic structure, so where we have one stressed syllable, one unstressed syllable, a pair in a foot, we call this eurhythmic structures. Okay, rhythmic structure that is optimal with one strong syllable alternating with one weak syllable. So foot structures with more than one weak syllable are less eurhythmic and less optimal. Meter and stress are interrelated. The length of the syllable in a line depends on the rhythmic pattern. The rhythm and rhyme are interrelated and constitute an important stylistic technique in poems. So in Eliot's poem, Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, you often find such experimental use of rhythm the refrain, if you remember, in the room, the women come and go, talking of Michael Angelo. So we have a rhythm, we have a rhyme pattern, rhyme scheme is there, the same last sound, go and Michelangelo. The length of the vowels that form the nucleus of the syllable vary according to the length. I repeat the lines. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michael Angelo, especially the last two sounds, last two vowels. Go, Angelo. So you find the last vowel sound is a long one. And therefore, this rhyme patterning, rhythm, and metrical arrangement make this line more rhythmic. So we have to recite this line as in the room. So one group, tone group. The we men come and go, talking of Michelangelo, tetrametrical line. So both the lines are tetrametrical. 4 feet are there. In rhymed vowel at the end, the rhymed vowel at the end that usually form a couplet are longer than the phonemes at the end of unrhymed lines in the poem. This metrical pattern can also be seen in Eliot's poem Gerontian. So I read some lines from Gerontian, it will make it easier for you. Here I am, an old man in a dry month, being read to by a boy, waiting for rain. I was neither at the hot gates, nor fought in the warm rain, nor knee deep in the salt marsh heaving a cutlass, beaten by flies, fought. So this dominant meter of Gerontian approximates the trochaic pentameter line. The lines contain several instances of spondees and occasional pyrrhics. They were manipulating the tone and rhythm. While the metrical pattern approximates the trochaic meter, the lines are interspersed with spondees. And there is also a variation of foot type and number of feet per line. This gives this particular stanza, the lines, a rhythmic reflective of a rhythm reflective of a conversational tone or conversational rhythm. So this is also seen in the famous poem of Keats, La Belle Dame sans Merci. So we have the rhyme scheme A, B, C, B. In a ballad stanza, usually we have this rhyme scheme. And while reading this poem, the readers develop the rhythm of speech according to the length line. The last line of this stanza in Keats's poem, all the stanzas in Keats' poem, composed in iambic dimeter. Okay, first 3 lines are composed in iambic tetrameter, and the last line is composed in iambic dimeter. But when we sing this song or recite the songs, we find that a manipulation of rhythm is done. So first I read the lines and you will find, oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, alone and palely loitering, the sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. So suddenly the line has been abruptly concluded with a diametrical last line. And when we sing the line, when we place these lines in a proper rhythm, as in the song that I just now sang, oh, what can ail the night at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lakes, and no birds sing. See, alone and palely loitering. It's a long line, tetrameter line. The rhythm is there, longer duration with tetrametrical feet. And the last line, and no birds sing. So there is the missing dimeter. Instead of a tetrameter, we have just a dimeter line. The first 3 lines of this passage approximate a tetrameter and allow the reader to fall into a fairly steady conversational rhythm. So if I just ask a question, oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, so haggard and so woebegone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest is done. I see a lily on thy brow, with anguish moist and fevered dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose, fast withered it too. So I have used a conversational rhythm, but here too we find that there is an equal gap between two stressed syllables. So these lines are definitely metrical as well as rhythmical. Meter and rhythm are closely related. More the line is metrical, patterned properly, the power of rhythm will also increase. It will be more rhythmical. And the tone group will also be separated in equal time, in equal feet. So this is all about intonation and its relationship with rhythm. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Thank you very much.